Manchester United have won a game playing clear, energetic football, pressing from the front, attacking football, and a clear tactical structure. Weren't sure we'd ever see the day, but we really did in this game, and it's backed up by the XG. 4.46 to Manchester United, 1.52 to Chelsea. United won 2-1, it could have been a lot more, but this was a really good performance, and like I said already, I like the energy of the performance, things like that, but also, just that it looked clear what we wanted to do. So let's get straight into this. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into what went so well for Manchester United in this game. And we're going to start off with the in-possession stuff. In particular, playing the ball out from the back, where I thought United looked the best they have looked for a long time. And the reason they looked so good was because Onana was used and Onana played in the way that we wanted him to play. And that was taking his time on the ball, drawing the press, buying time and buying space for other players. So let's say United were trying to play from the back. The two centre-backs would split like this. The full-backs would be wider. We'd see one of the midfielders in here. Chelsea were a man down in their press, as we expected them to be. We called this in our tactical preview yesterday. And what this meant was that when Onana took his time on the ball and waited, kept taking extra touches for Jackson to come forward, it meant that the ball could then be played to Victor Lindelof. Lindelof could carry out from the back, and then from there United could have some success. Sterling might come towards the ball and you can play to Shaw, or Sterling might stay deeper and Lindelof can carry the ball further, or we might now get a midfielder dropping in. But either way, because of Onana taking extra touches on the ball, United were able to get out from the back. They were also able to get out from the back because his distribution was much better, particularly these little clipped passes over the top of the Chelsea press to find the Manchester United fullbacks. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. It's exactly what we wanted Onana for, and he'd done it in this game, allowing United to get out from the back on quite a regular basis. We saw a commitment to playing out from the back for large periods, and yeah, it was nice to see, and as a result, United were able to move the ball forward. United continued to impress on the ball and have a clear tactical structure on the ball in the middle third. We haven't seen that for a while, but we really did in this game. Now, the big thing here, it's not even about formation, whether you're building in a 3-2 shape, a 3-1 shape, etc. It's all about intent on the ball. And what we saw in this game was Manchester United players taking extra touches on the ball, slowing the game down, but also linking the midfield. Something that I've complained about a lot recently is that we often end up with a solo pivot, and the other two midfielders are far too high and behind the opposition's midfield, and you can't get the ball through. We didn't see that in the game. Instead, what we would regularly see, was one of the United fullbacks dropping a little bit deeper to form a back three. It could be Dalot or Shaw. It changed throughout the game. Amrabat would then be a pivot in midfield. But importantly, once he got the ball, let's say, in this sort of position here, Scott McTominay then had his timing right of dropping into this position to receive the next pass. This sounds really simple, but trust me, if you've watched a lot of Manchester United this season, we really haven't seen it that much. At times it was McTominay dropping in, at times Dalot would invert into this area, and at times Bruno Fernandes would drop deep. The important thing though was that it just gave us that connection point in midfield. Like I said, a lot of the time recently we've had a solo player in this area. They look up and the rest of the United players are far too high and you can't find them. However, the second you drop one of them a little bit deeper, you just open up these different passing lanes and it allows United to connect the midfield. And like I said also, ball retention was really important. This is something I tweeted after the game. The Manchester United midfield three had an average pass completion rate of 91.6% control. When was the last time we saw United keep the ball that well in midfield? If we go back to the opening weeks of the season, we had a game where Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, Eriksen were all on around 78% pass completion. To go up to 91.6 is phenomenal. But it wasn't at the sacrifice of, good forward play. But let's just quickly focus on that link in midfield. We'll use Once Video Analyzer Pro to look at this. This is, for me, the best video analysis software out there. Go check it out. There's a link in the description down below. What we can see here, though, is that, as always, United have got a fluid structure, so players are moving into different positions. And on this occasion, Sofian Amrabat has dropped in between the two centre-backs to get the ball, with Maguire being, just behind me there somewhere. But Sofian Amrabat drops in. Now, what has normally then been a problem for United this season is that there's then no player in here. However, you will see Bruno Fernandes just creeping in. And this is incredibly simple. I can't believe I'm even highlighting this, but it probably shows how bad we've been this season that I have to talk about this. But what we see on this move is that Bruno Fernandes drops deep and connects the midfield. This is such a basic thing, but Amrabat also carries the ball forward, and United end up with a double pivot in the midfield, providing that connection point in the middle. We've got another example here. Again, I know this is really simple stuff, but what we've got is Sofian Amrabat dropping deeper. He receives the ball from Luke Shaw, and what you can see again is a big gap in midfield. This is the problem that we've had all season long. However, On this occasion, Scott McTominay recognises the space and chooses to drop in. We can see him making this run here, pointing where he wants the pass to go. Amrabat obliges, passes the ball to Scott McTominay, who sets it off to Harry Maguire. Again, it's incredibly simple, but it provides a way of keeping the ball. It's an extra option in the midfield, and it allows United to keep the ball ticking over. This time in more of a 2-4 shape with a fullback down the bottom here. And then we've got this situation here, and this is really the benefit of connecting our midfield in this way. So, United get the ball from the back. Sofian Amrabat pulls a little bit wider on this occasion, more to a kind of a right-sided half space in a deep area to receive the ball. He doesn't actually get the pass though, but what we can see, once again, United have left a big gap in the midfield. That's a problem, it's been there all season, but not in this particular game, because Manchester United make the effort to drop an extra player from higher up into this position. Scott McTominay comes deep and receives the pass, gets on the turn, plays the ball to Bruno Fernandes. Suddenly, we connected our midfield, and with the three of the midfielders all having a good pass success rate, it just allowed United to connect the pitch much, much better. It allowed United to move the ball forward. Now, having moved the ball forward, we were then able to get the ball out wide, where I thought United done a brilliant job of hurting Chelsea, basically. I thought Anthony had another great game on the right-hand side. He was troubling Colwill throughout the match. He never quite had the burst to, once he'd beat him, he didn't have that burst to get away from him. Colwill was quite an athletic guy. But the intent was still there. And again, I still think we need better conviction from some of his passes inside and things like that. But in terms of a performance where largely he's keeping the ball for his side, he's trying to create things in the final third, but also we'll see later, out of possession, he played a big part of this game. I thought it was good from Anthony. Then we've got Garnacho on the other side, who, I'll say it again, quite clearly is raw as a player, right? He's not there, he's not complete yet. He's a bit of a rough diamond, but my days, he is a threat. In terms of progressing the ball via carries, no Manchester United player done it as well as Garnacho last night, statistically speaking. No one done it as well as him. He done a brilliant job of getting the ball and taking on his fullback. But one of the reasons that this was so effective was because whether it was Luke Shaw in the first half or Reguilon in the second half, United done a good job of pushing players past him, taking Chelsea defenders away to give him that space for isolation. So normally, let's say Garnacho's got the ball here. Sterling might drop back, help his fullback out and double up on him. However, what we saw, like I said, it could be Shaw, it could be Reguilon, would bomb forward, taking this run of Sterling away. Now Garnacho can get at the fullback, go 1 versus 1, and he absolutely toasted them. Whether it was Cucurella in the first half, Reece James in the second half, I thought Garnacho was absolutely brilliant at taking his man on in the final third and getting into these dangerous positions. And of course, the result of this, with the fullback pushed forward, is that United were able to create a front five. And Chelsea have got a back four, and we know that when you work the ball down the line, get into wide positions, have a front five against a back four, you're going to create chances. And it's exactly what we saw. Easy for me to say. Forward a winning goal. Let's go over to it real quick. You can tell I'm excited about this game, I think. I'm talking quite quick. Here we have it. Front five, Manchester United. Reguilon has driven forward with the ball. Now, Garnacho's just behind me somewhere, but we can see we've got 4 players here, plus Reguilon bombing forward, striding forward with the ball, creating our front five. Reguilon's going to play the ball wide to Garnacho. Is Garnacho behind me, or can you see him? You can see him. Lovely. What we can see, though, is that for once, United have plenty of options in the box. Reece James can't come out and engage Garnacho because of the run of Reguilon. Again, creating the numerical overload in the final third hurts the Chelsea defence. Garnacho does really well, cuts inside onto his right foot, puts the ball into the box. Scott McTominay's there, Rasmus Højlund is there. Scott McTominay eventually puts it into the net. I will just say on this, I think Rasmus Højlund deserves some credit. I think he's not scoring enough goals and perhaps not doing quite enough. And people are saying McTominay's scoring goals, why can't Rasmus do it? I don't know if you noticed, McTominay's goals seem to always come when Rasmus Højlund is occupying one of the centre-backs. If Rasmus Højlund isn't here, if he's instead at the near post and his movement is poor, Thiago Silva can help challenge for this ball, but Rasmus Højlund takes him out of the way, the ball comes into the box, and Scott McTominay puts the ball into the back of the net. Overall, I thought in possession, on the ball, this was a really good performance from United. My one concern was leaving spaces for the counter-attack. The rest defence structure wasn't that good. So despite building out from the back, then keeping the ball well in the midfield and controlling the tempo of the game, and then being really dangerous in the final third, there was still a weakness, and that was that once United lost the ball, there were gaps. Particularly in the first half, it was often, Amrabat and the 2 centre-backs against the world, it felt like. I think this was the result of pushing a lot of men forward into the final third. Of course, when you commit that many men forward, you're going to leave gaps to be exploited. And United did do that in the first half. They did leave gaps, and Chelsea were able to carry the ball forward. This was my one concern, really, in the first half. In possession, United's rest defence wasn't good enough, and when Chelsea have got good ball carriers like Caicedo, Sterling, Mudryk, they're going to cause problems. However, aside from that, United were really good defensively, so let's go over to that now. So for me, one of the pieces of evidence which really shows that United were good defensively is this stat here, the high turnovers, 12. 12 high turnovers from Manchester United, with 6 leading to shots in the final third. This suggests we've got a good pressing structure, we're winning the ball nice and high up the pitch and turning it into dangerous situations, and it's exactly true. The stats reflect what we all saw with our eyes, and that was a good pressing performance. But what was different about it? Why were United good at pressing in this game, considering against Newcastle, it was one of the worst things we've ever seen? Well, one, I thought the energy of the side looked much better. I thought the work rate was much better. Players after the game alluded to having, less intense training sessions leading up to the game. Did that play into it? If so, fair play coaching staff, Erik ten Hag. But also, well done to the players. They were bad against Newcastle, but in this game, they did up the intensity. And it comes from Garnacho and Antony on the wings working incredibly hard. Rasmus Højlund's work rate is absolutely phenomenal. I think that will go unnoticed, but he was incredible with his work rate. And then we've got Bruno Fernandes, Scott McTominay and Amrabat who all cover ground well in the centre. So that's all good. But we've also got a better pressing structure. Not always, it wasn't always perfect, but for large periods we did see a better pressing structure. And the reason for that was because Chelsea would split their two fullbacks. We'd see at least one of the midfielders dropping in nice and deep. The other one would be in this sort of area here. But Manchester United had a hybrid press. So initially Robert Sanchez has got the ball. United are going to lock on man for man in the midfield. Fernandes on Caicedo, McTominay on Enzo Fernandez, and Sofiane Amrabat on Cole Palmer. Now, Højlund has a difficult job here because he's essentially responsible for picking up 3 players, the 2 centre-backs and the goalkeeper. But he does really well. He's intelligent but also intense in the way that he plays. So he waits basically for Sanchez to touch the ball either way, whether that be to the left or to the right. Højlund is waiting for that touch. The second that Sanchez takes his touch to the right, Højlund is going to lock on and force him one way. So what he's now done is he's stopped Sanchez from playing this way. Now this is the cue for United to squeeze the press. What's going to happen here is Antony will come in from this side, like this, and Garnacho is going to really bust a gut to get over here and make sure Disasi can't receive the next pass. He's going to be in this position here, so this pass is far too risky to play. This is fairly common for United. I thought the intensity was better than we've seen all season, but the actual structure of it so far is pretty normal. It's what we tend to see. However, the next part is where it all changes, because typically what teams do against United here is they float the ball out to the fullback, and because United's fullback is deep, Chelsea are then able to play out from the back. That's what normally happens, that's perhaps what we expected. But not in this game, because in this game, as this ball went over, and perhaps Palmer went short to receive, and Sterling pushed high, we saw Amrabat follow Palmer into these areas, but importantly, the fullback was already connected. The fullback was connected to the press. It's something I go on about all the time. It's a really brave, bold strategy. But Shaw was connected to the press, which means that as this ball comes wide from the goalkeeper, Shaw is there ready to challenge, and he's really good in these positions. He done it really well. I thought he had a good game. I thought he was brilliant at left back, and we'll talk about his second half shortly. But this comes from a better United pressing structure. Now, let's not get carried away. It wasn't perfect. We didn't see it all of the time for a start. There were a few occasions still where the fullback was a little bit deeper, and Chelsea were able to get out. But for large parts of the game, United did connect the fullbacks to the press. However, they still had a couple of issues. One would be that Chelsea have good ball carriers in the side. Caicedo, Cole Palmer, Raheem Sterling, Mudryk, they're good at carrying the ball, and United do still struggle with that. However, for large periods, to focus on the positive for now, I thought the press was good. So let's look at one example here. And the good thing was it was happening right from the start of the game, so the instruction was clear. So, Rasmus Højlund here we can see has forced Robert Sanchez one way. We can see that Sanchez is taking his touch to the right-hand side. Højlund locks on and goes, okay, that's my chance to press. I'm going to force him that way. We can see in midfield, McTominay on Enzo Fernandez, Bruno Fernandes on Caicedo, and also Garnacho quite narrow coming in on the centre-back. However, this is the story of United's season. Robert Sanchez is now just going to play the ball out to the fullback. United's press gets beaten. It's a problem. But not in this game because, as we'll see, Luke Shaw locks onto the press, so we can see where Cucurella would typically receive. But just behind him, coming up the pitch, is Luke Shaw absolutely steaming into challenge for this ball. And between Luke Shaw and Sofiane Amrabat, they win the ball off Chelsea. It's a really good pressing structure, it's intense from the fullbacks, and it allows United to win the ball back up the pitch because for once, they have pressed as a unit. As a unit, we don't see that too often. We've got another situation here, where again we can see Rasmus Højlund is going to recognise this back pass and use that as the opportunity to press Chelsea one way. Just like that, he's forced Robert Sanchez to the right-hand side. Once again, we can see the structure United are going for. Anthony is tucked in now on the centre-back. Scott McTominay, who's just behind me, is picking up Enzo Fernandez in the midfield. Bruno Fernandes on Caicedo. And Garnacho, our left winger, on Disasi. So the free pass for Sanchez is going to be to this side of the pitch because United don't normally connect the press well. However, they do on this occasion. And what we'll actually see here is the psychological effect of United's press in this game. Because Amrabat is tight on Palmer. Normally, he would now just flick this ball around the corner to Cucurella. But he was very clearly aware of the fact that Luke Shaw was there. So instead, Palmer hesitates, Sofian Amrabat nicks in, wins the ball, and again, it's because of a good pressing structure. A structure so good that at times, Chelsea were just forced to sending the ball long. And that's a real credit to this United side because United don't normally force teams to do that. So that was in the first half. However, there was still one problem. And that problem was that when Mudryk moved inside, Dalot didn't follow it. And that when the ball came into these areas, United weren't aggressive enough. And that was the first half. However, Ten Hag makes a really good change at half-time. So Chelsea bring Reece James on at right-back. United bring Reguilon on for Lindelof. So Luke Shaw's going to go to centre-back. That's a good change, because it now means that as the ball comes into these areas, Luke Shaw wants more physical contact than what Victor Lindelof does. So when Jackson or Sterling are trying to receive the ball in these areas, Shaw is now being aggressive, and that has improved United's pressing structure. The other improvement we saw was that in the second half as Mudryk came inside, Dalot was following him. And, you know, I think that's a small detail which most people haven't noticed, but it was another positive of the night. Again, let's not get too carried away. In possession, it still wasn't perfect. The build-up structure was improved, but we still need to see more work. In possession, the sustained possession, it was good, but we still need to see those midfielders dropping in on a more regular basis. We need to see more of it from McTominay, because when he done it, we've seen clearly that it actually worked really well and allowed United to succeed in that way. And for that reason, United absolutely deserved their win. There's still flaws in the system. Ball carriers of Chelsea were still hurting United. At times, the press wasn't fully connected and the midfield was too open, and United did get hurt in those situations, particularly in the first half. But in general, for large parts of the game, particularly in the second half, once Ten Hag made those in-game changes, I thought United were absolutely brilliant. We'll focus on the negatives another day, but overall, today, I think United were absolutely brilliant, so we deserve to celebrate a 2-1 win, which should have been about 4-1. So that's where we're leaving the video for today. Get in the comments, let me know what you thought. Who impressed you the most? Was it Scott McTominay with his brace? Was it Amrabat controlling the game? Maguire defending in key moments? Garnacho on the dribble? Bruno Fernandes, who was incredible despite the missed penalty? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.